Yo, 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 welcome back to the Further Your Lifestyle podcast, conversations on lifestyle, passions, and hustles. My name's Chris Furlong. I am your host, and today it's just you and me. We're going to have a conversation today. Of course, before we get into it, if you are new here, we are on Spotify, we are on YouTube, we're on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, all those great places. So however you want to listen, get comfortable, get cozy, and let's jump into it. So do you ever feel like the days, the weeks, the months are just zooming by? I mean, it's 2021 and we're already in the end of October, but do you ever feel like things are on autopilot? Maybe you tend to feel like you've lost the joy, or you're just doing things because you have to, and that's all you know, and that's just become your normal, become your mundane routine thing that you do, and you don't really think about it. You know, it's kind of like when you drive a car and you get to your destination, you realize, hang on, I don't remember driving here, and it's kind of like, it's just a bit of a brain fart, or it just disappears, or you just feel like everything is just on auto repeat. Well, I don't want to tell you that you're going crazy, but this is normal, right? I mean, even more so with the continued, I guess, uncertainties and crazy times at the moment, that we tend to block out all the fluff, and we just dig ourselves into whatever it is that's keeping us focused, or keeping us concentrated, or keeping us rooted. And this can be a good and bad thing, because we work it as a distraction, or at the same time it can mean that we don't put attention to where we need our attention to be. But the good thing is, a lot of this can change, and that's what I want to focus on today. I want to walk through, and I want to talk through, I guess, checking in with yourself. I guess a pulse check of sorts. And what I mean by that is zooming out and gaining some perspective, clearing your head and taking back control. And at the end of this episode, what I would love to be able to do is ask you a question, ask you a favor, but we'll get to that. So let's dive into this, talking about the power of zooming out, taking a moment, and to reflect. I guess something that I want to make sure everyone is very clear with is things are never going to be perfect. So don't wait around for the stars to align in your favor, because it's not going to happen. But I think what we need to ensure that we are focusing our time and our energy on and effort are the things that you can control. I think, if anything, that I've learned in the last 1 to 2 years is the control is a huge factor. And sometimes we get so frustrated with things that we can't control. But it's not until we kind of zoom out that we realize, hang on, why am I so frustrated at this? It's because you can't control it. It's because you can't change anything. So usually we complain about it, we get angry, we get annoyed. Whereas if you're focusing all your attention on the things that you can control, that you can put your hands on and move around, and that you can have some level of responsibility on, that's when you're going to start to feel so much better. So basically, when things suck, when you're in a situation that sucks, or maybe something comes into your world which it's just not what you thought, and it's not part of your plan, it is about taking that mentality and that approach and attitude to see, well, what can you make out of this situation? Whether it's, can I take control? Can I change the direction? Can I change the narrative? Can I change the conversation? Or can you look through it and see there's a silver lining? There's something here that you can grow from, something here that you can actually learn from, or something here that actually, if you spin it, it's actually going to work out for the better. And this is easier said than done, but I want to give some examples of this and how maybe it will relate to you, but how it's worked for me. For me, over the last couple of weeks, I've let my mindset, my mentality, and I guess some of my emotions really get the best of me, and really overtake control in terms of what I've been thinking and what I've been wanting to achieve. And this is in my side business of reselling. And to break it down and give you guys some fresh perspective of some of the steps that I've been, I guess, taking and trying to bring this back into my control, I think this is so relevant that we can apply in all our different areas. And it's basically 4 steps, 3 steps essentially with a 0.5 in there between. But the first one being is mindset reset. And that is really the big conversation of this episode, because even though sometimes it can be something so simple that we do, a mindset reset, it also is something which can be very difficult to do. But really what it means is taking a conscious decision to step back and cool off. In short, that's what it means, is take a step back, cool off, clear the head, zoom out, and it basically just gives yourself some space to think and just really bring yourself back to reality. So how have I done this? Now, if I'm talking about in the reselling business or if you're selling things online, for me, as an example, what I was able to do was took some time off from the routines and the processes, but this would be whatever it is that you do, and just to step back and just to cool off. And it's the same for my running. When my 50K training event got pushed out, it meant that my training was going to double in terms of length potentially. And you've just been hacking away at it for so long, you're going to get so frustrated. So taking a couple of weeks to just cool off, take a step back and relax helps you bring you back to reality. Now, for the things when I am feeling frustrated or things are out of my control and I do need to zoom out and just kind of, take a bit back more into control, it's, for me, I like to go for a mental run, a run which isn't about training, a run that isn't about, trying to achieve anything, but just going out, clearing the head kind of run and having some fun. It might be playing some video games or reading a book, or the point is doing something with the intent to slow you down from the thing which is taking over your mindset or overwhelming you. That's really what it is. And I'll say that again. The point is doing something with intent to slow you down from the thing which is taking over your mindset or overwhelming you or frustrating you. And really, you just need to have a moment off. You need to just take a chance to rest the mind. And once you do this, it's kind of like you're able to get into a bit of a clear headspace, and then you can move on to step 2, which is understanding your goals. And this one is key. Like it's super key, because whether we're working a 9 to 5, whether we're trying to, hit the gym and get a new weight goal, or maybe you're training for something, or maybe you're just working on a side project or a side hustle, or you're running a business, whatever it is, maybe you're building a podcast. We can get so focused on the grind and that the process, the routine, we get so embedded in that we forget our end game. We forget, well, what's the original intent of why we started? Why are we even doing this? I know this is a huge challenge for YouTube. Like when you're creating YouTube content, or maybe you're a content creator, it can be very, very, you can get very bogged down by just doing the grind of creating and not really understand why you're creating it, because you lose track of where you want to be or what you want to be doing. Once you've had that mindset reset, actually checking in on yourself and keeping yourself real, accountable, will help you stay on track. It's really, really important. And for me, if I bring it back to the perspective and example around me selling online or reselling, is my goal for this year was really to take a chance on myself, right? And it was to create this podcast. It was to build this podcast. But at the same time, I needed to be able to earn some money to be able to build this podcast and have the freedom of time, which meant having my own business, in this case, reselling online. It enabled me to do so. It enabled me to have that freedom and luxury of time to be able to do these kind of things and not have to rely on working for someone else. Doing that, and at the same time, having those freedoms, it enabled me to be able to create this. Now, naturally, if you are in the e-commerce world, if you're selling online, revenue or the dollars you've earned or sales it tends to be the main, data point, which tends to dictate the pulse check of progress. When really, what I need to be focusing on, I shouldn't be focusing on how much sales I'm doing, how much revenue I'm doing. Yes, that is a key factor, but really the key factor I should be focusing on is actually profit, because at the end of the day, my goal, my intent for this year was to be able to create a podcast, do the things that I wanted to do, test out, take a chance on me, and really the only thing I need to be doing is paying for bills. That's what I need to be doing. But that's why I should really be focusing more on profits than focusing on just a high revenue coming through. Because if I can have that steady income for my lifestyle, for my savings, it means that I can continue to do what I'm doing here. Having taken some time to really assess this, it's giving me some really fresh perspective, right? And I'm going to give you some high level numbers just to help give some perspective. But for you, you have to work this into your own world, into your own systems, into your own understanding, or whatever it is that you're trying to understand your goals about. Let me give you some numbers and help you better understand this. So my record week in revenue ever reselling, and I've been doing this for about 40 weeks, was around week 30. I did $1,900. Profit was around $1,000. But once we get into the numbers, it's about a 57% margin. So it was a really, really good week in terms of revenue. But the week that's just gone, which was around week 39, week 40, so that actually ranked 12 out of the 40 weeks, but for profit. And what I mean by that is the revenue only ranked 20 out of the 40 weeks, but my profit was better, all things considered, in terms of my ranking. So what I'm really trying to say here is, when we actually bring that fresh perspective into it, when my goal is more around, actually, I need to be able to make an income, not just an income of revenue, but an income of profit. to be able to pay bills, to, grow my savings or invest or whatever it may be. Understanding this perspective changes everything. It helps me have a better understanding of my intent, or in this case, it would help you have a better understanding of your intent. And all this information can help us take a refreshed approach and help bring a better clarity, help us see things that aren't so bad, and help you see where you can take control and where you can potentially refocus. Now, for me, this meant, well, maybe I shouldn't be focusing so much on around how much revenue I can make, but how can I actually lower my costs? How can I increase my potential profits by, is it selling more volume, or is it selling higher valued items, or is it as simple as, just lowering costs? And that has really given me a different way of looking at this rather than just trying to focus so much on revenue. So these numbers tell a completely different story because I could be doing a high revenue but have a low profit, or I can be doing a really low sales volume but actually have a super high profit. And like I said, understanding where you want to be, what you want to be doing is going to change how you have this conversation with yourself and how you drive this narrative. So step number 3, you've cleared your head, you understand it. Now it's time to jump back on the wagon. And that's really what it is. It's with a fresh mindset, a fresh perspective, and some better understanding is you want to basically slap yourself back into reality, and you want to get back on that wagon. You want to be driving to town. You want to be going where you're going, and it's time to take that newfound joy or that new perspective and get back into action and get back into what you do and what you love to do. And this is super important because you can only do this though once you've got that fresh perspective. Now, I'm not saying that you can just all of a sudden you're going to find it. If you are struggling to find, well, what is it that my goal is? It might be a bit of a number crunching process in terms of writing down a list of things. Why did you start this? Why? Understanding your why. But once you know that, once you have that fresh perspective and you've realigned yourself to where you want to be going, then you can jump back on the wagon. And it's super important because if you don't have that free focus in mind, if you don't have that fresh mindset, it's going to be harder to get back into that groove, getting back into the routine, building the process, building the habit, and sticking to processes or whatnot. So that is super key. It is a very short one, a very small point, but it's super important that you've done the legwork in identifying what was your intent or understanding your goal or your end game. So one step that I didn't really mention just yet, which was the 0.5. Now this would apply in either 2.5 or 3.5. You're going to do it before jumping back into the wagon, or you're going to do it slightly after. And that one basically is having a conversation. And this is super important, and you'll understand why in a second, but we should never take for granted a conversation. Whether it's, maybe you're having issues, maybe you're struggling, maybe you're feeling overwhelmed, or maybe you're not getting the focus, you're not getting the answers, you're not getting the refresh that you need. Well, this is when you need to have a conversation with someone. You need to have a chat with someone. And it might be when you're struggling to just re-lock down on your goals or in your intent, and reach out to someone, vent, ask for help. And it's also going to be key when you do get back into the game, when you do get back into your groove and getting back on that wagon of just having someone there to kind of keep you honest and that you can bounce ideas on, keep you honest, keep you accountable. And I think either way, that conversation is going to be very, very helpful. You could either do it while you're getting back into your groove and trying to find what that goal is and identifying it, or you can be having this conversation as you get back. I think both will bring you huge advantages. And for me, it works like a charm. Having a conversation with someone, just venting a bit, bouncing some ideas, taking a step back and just hearing it from their perspective, or actually seeing maybe it's all in my head and maybe there is no issue, but getting it out there, because sometimes we bottle it all up. And if you're doing a small business, if you're doing a project, if you're working and you're doing it all solo and you're not venting, you're not having a conversation, you're going to get into a sticky situation. So having the conversation is key. So that's it, guys. That really is my steps and my points that I wanted to make today around how you can zoom out and the power of zooming out and take a moment to reflect and actually take back control. And I'm just going to quickly recap, but there's a couple of steps here. Is number one is mindset reset, is taking a step back, moving away from the thing that's driving you insane, the thing that's frustrating you, but taking the conscious decision to step back and cool off. Step 2 is understanding your goals. Why did you start? What is your intent? Why were you even doing this in the first place? What are you trying to achieve here? And helping you get back on the path, but also understand, is there something now you need to refocus on, change perspective, and change the mindset? Step 3 is then jumping back on the wagon, getting back with the band, getting back into the game, getting back into the focus. And along the way is having the conversation. That is step 4, but it's kind of something that you integrate along the way, is having a conversation with someone, finding someone that you can partner with, that you can have some accountability with, you can vent with, or just have a conversation with. So those are the 4 points that I believe is going to help you zoom out, refocus, and get back into the game. But, before we finish up, what I do want to ask you guys is a question. I want to ask you a question and a favor. And that question is, I want to pulse check this podcast. I want to hear from you guys. What are you thinking? Are you enjoying this? I've done quite a few episodes. Where we've had guests. I've had a few return guests. I've had the solo episodes. I've started the new series of Further Your Idea. And I just wanted to take a chance to pulse check with you guys. I'm loving everything that I'm doing, but I would love to hear more from you. So how you can help me know what I want to know. And that is a pulse check. I want to hear feedback. I want to understand, are you enjoying this? How you can do that? Well, you can send me an email. And the best way to do that is hello@furtheryourlifestyle.com. Very simple. An email, hello@furtheryourlifestyle.com. The other way you can do this is, in the show notes, there's a few different links, but otherwise you can jump over to our Instagram, which is @furtheryourlifestyle. You can jump over to Twitter and say @furtheryourlife. You can jump over to the YouTube as well, which all the links are in the description below. If you just go to the website, www.furtheryourlifestyle.com, you can see all the social links up in the top right-hand corner. You can jump over to the YouTube. You can leave a comment there. You can, on one of the videos, you can leave a comment. At the end of the day, letting me know, letting me hear, whether it's via comment on Instagram, whether it's a message on Instagram, whether it's an email, whether it's a tweet, or you could even leave a review, whether it's on Apple Podcasts and all those great places. Letting me know if you're enjoying this, if you aren't enjoying this, if you want to see other things. Any feedback would be great, and that's really a pulse check. Now, I'm just asking, if you're enjoying this, I want to know why. And if you're not enjoying this, I want to know why. So you can either jump over to Instagram, over at email, all those great places. Let me know, and that would be greatly appreciated, because I appreciate you all. I really do. Anyone that's listening, I thank you so much. So I love doing these little conversations, having a conversation just between you and me. And I hope you've taken something from this. I hope this has given you some perspective. I hope it's given you something to think about and something to maybe go back and reapply to your own life, reapply to your own world, passion, lifestyle, hustle, whatever it is. And if you do have questions, of course, you can reach out as well. Otherwise, thank you for being here. My name's Chris Furlong. I am your host, and it's been an absolute honor having this conversation with you, and you have a wonderful day. Cheers. Now, if you didn't know, we do have the podcast merch, and this is with a key focus of enamel pins. Now, if you haven't checked these out, make sure you do, because the intent of these are really just to be a small token and a reminder for you to charge on, to push on, and to further your lifestyle. Whether it is a gift for someone else to encourage them, or maybe to inspire them, or maybe it's a way to motivate yourself, or you can simply just make a purchase to simply support the podcast, which would be greatly appreciated. We do also have some sweaters and some long tees, so make sure you check it out. Link in the description and in the show notes. Really do appreciate it. Cheers.